What if I told you that cleaning up that amazing antique you just found at a flea market, like scrubbing it down until it looks shiny and new, might actually be the absolute fastest way to destroy its value?
Yeah, I mean, it is the ultimate temptation, right? You
Right.
see this old weathered machine and your brain just immediately goes, oh, I can fix that.
Right, exactly. But with industrial heirlooms, that instinct can actually completely erase the object's soul. So today we are taking a deep dive into this really incredible guide from Papa Joe's Collectibles down in Barrydale.
Yeah, it's such a fantastic resource.
It really is. And the mission for you today is decoding this foundational dilemma of vintage finds. Do you restore it to look shiny and new, or do you preserve its weathered history? Okay, let's unpack this.
So the first thing you have to ask yourself when you bring an object home is simply like, what is its job now?
Right, what's its actual purpose?
Exactly. Are you treating this as a historical artifact to study, or is it, functional artwork for your living room?
So it's basically the difference between celebrating the wrinkles of a long life versus, I don't know, giving the machine a mechanical facelift.
Yeah, that aesthetic comparison totally works, but it actually goes deeper into the physics of the intervention. So preservation is really the historian's approach.
Okay.
You're stabilizing the piece using minimal reversible methods. You want to sort of freeze it in time.
Basic. Right.
But restoration is the designer's approach. You're using irreversible methods like sanding, stripping, painting to recreate how it looked and functioned on day one.
Which makes me think of the Yale key cutter from Papa Joe's, right?
Yep. Yeah, perfect example.
Because the internal mechanics of that thing were completely seized up. They couldn't just dust it off. They literally had to disassemble the whole thing, polish everything down to bare metal, and then seal it with lacquer.
Right, because the goal for that specific piece was a dynamic display. They needed it to actually move.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And the lacquer is key there because once you strip away decades of grime to expose that raw metal, you have to seal it or, ambient oxygen will just start attacking it again immediately.
But wait, since restoration is often irreversible, like you said, how do you actually know when to go that far?
Yeah, that is the big question.
Like, when is aggressive intervention really justified? Because it seems like it all hinges on the patina test. But let me push back here for a second.
Go for it.
Isn't heavy, flaky rust just a really aggressive form of patina? Because they look pretty similar to me.
Well, what's fascinating here is the stark chemical difference between the two. Patina forms this velvety sealed surface over decades.
Okay.
It's an oxidation layer that actually locks out further oxygen, so it protects the metal underneath. It authenticates the age.
Right, it's a good thing.
Exactly. But active deterioration, like that flaky rust you mentioned, is a totally different chemical reaction.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's essentially a disease that opens up the metal, allowing oxygen to just continuously eat away at the base material.
Which totally explains why you'd never want to use like a commercial brass polish on a true patina.
Oh, definitely not.
You're literally chemically burning away that protective seal, like the Singing Kodak 8 camera from the collection.
Right.
They deliberately preserved the unpolished tarnish on the original brass because it proved the camera hadn't been, messed with.
Exactly. But then you look at their mechanical fuel pump. That piece was covered in heavy active rust. I mean, it was actively decaying.
So what do you do then?
Well, they use media blasting, which is essentially firing tiny abrasive particles at really high speed to physically strip away the diseased, flaking metal.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, and it does that without melting the core structure. If they hadn't sacrificed the surface to stop that active deterioration, the rust would have literally eaten the entire piece.
Okay, so confusing a protective patina with destructive rust can basically ruin a piece.
Very quickly, yes.
So how do you actually make the final call on what to touch and what to leave alone?
There's actually a brilliant three-point matrix for this. The first point is structural integrity, which you always want to preserve.
Right.
So say a wooden half wine barrel is splitting apart. You might add a new metal band to hold it together, but you definitely don't sand down the original wood.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And the second point is functional utility, right?
Yeah.
Like with an old Carnegie and Leighton scale.
Spot on.
You might clean the internal gears so the scale actually balances, but you leave the weathered exterior metal housing completely alone. You just do enough to make it work.
Exactly. And then the third point is balancing market value against sentimental value. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, whatever path you end up choosing, the non-negotiable rule is transparency.
Oh, interesting. Transparency how?
You have to document the original condition, record every single intervention you make, and you have to visibly label any modern parts you add. You simply cannot falsify history.
So what does this all mean? It means that when you pick up that dusty piece of history, you aren't just a collector, you're really a steward.
100%.
And if you are ever in doubt, Papa Joe's Collectibles in Barrydale is actually calling for you to send them your heirloom projects, so their experts can handle that stewardship for you.
It's true. It really takes a lot of pressure off to just hand it to someone who deeply understands the chemistry and the history.
Definitely. But I'll leave you with this to chew on. Say you find a beautiful broken machine.
Okay.
You replace the rusted gears, you swap out the cracked housing, you put on a brand new handle just so it works again.
Right.
At what point does it stop being a historical artifact and start becoming a modern replica? Are you saving its soul or are you just building a shiny new one?